What's up guys, it's Matt here from Tactical Edge Hobbies and I'm bringing you another tech talk video today. And today I'm just going to cover battery basics essentially. So just all the bare bones basics about batteries, all the safety stuff and the different styles batteries that you may need to know when considering what you should be buying for your blaster and why. So I'll get straight into it guys. So first of all, batteries, they're a major component to a Gelblaster. Obviously it's where the power comes from. They won't run without it. So the important thing though is having a good quality battery. Now if you don't have a good quality battery, it could make even your top of the line Gelblaster run like it's on one cylinder sort of thing. So pun intended, it actually is. But if you've got to do any sort of upgrading at all, then generally a battery is included in that sort of upgrade. So it's something you have to consider. You can't throw all these crazy motors and awesome gears and big springs and then just keep a really small battery like that. You know, you want to get a good quality battery that's going to also power the good quality parts. So first of all, what I'm going to sort of explain through is what the different like little terminology when it comes to batteries that you need to consider is. So the first one will be the MAH rating. So if you don't know what that is, it's generally seen on batteries like here. You've got 1.2 for instance, that is 1.2 amps. So that's essentially the capacity of the battery. You'll also see other batteries that say 1200. That's the same size. So 1.2, 1200, same size, that's amps, that's milliamps. So it's just like centimeters and millimeters. You know, you could have 10 centimeters, but 100 mil, it's the same thing. So same thing with that. All right, so into voltage. This number of voltage denotes the power output of the battery. So generally you've got 7.4, 11.1. That's, you know, your generic Lipo sort of lithium ion batteries. You've also got a few other ones when you get into the nickel type batteries, but generally the most popular batteries on the market are Lipos. So you've got 7.4, 11.1, they're the most common. I won't sort of get into the others because you won't really find them very often, but 11.1 has got a higher output of power. It also has 3 cells as opposed to a 7.4 volt which has a lower output as opposed to 11 and only has 2 cells. Now, the biggest myth with the different voltages of batteries is if you go to 11.1 volt, your FPS is going to go up, or your feet per second. No, that's wrong. All it does is increase the fire rate of the motor, or the RPM of the motor, because you've got that high output. The motor's going to spin faster, your gearbox is going to go faster. It doesn't change FPS at all. All right. Sometimes depends on how you've got your gearbox built, and you throw high fire rate in there, you might have feeding issues or sealing issues, which will actually drop your FPS. But yeah, it'll never increase. If it increases for any reason, then that's something that's separate to the battery. I'll just touch quickly on the C rating as well. If you've seen that before, sometimes you have, some batteries have it, some batteries don't. I believe, yeah, the Turnigy Nanotech does have a C rating on the battery. Now it's kind of hard to see, I might get a close-up shot of this, but you've got a 25 to 50 C on this particular battery. There's also 15 to 25. Now, what does that mean? It's basically the discharge or charge capability of the battery, how much can go in and out of it. So when you've got the number 50, like the higher number when you've got it on your battery, the higher number is generally the burst rating, so the initial discharge rate, whereas the other one is the nominal, which is like the continuous rate. So essentially, what does that number mean? It means if you've got like a low number, say just 10, that as opposed to a 25C means that if you've got a motor that pulls 10, that battery will work. But if you've got a battery that's rated for 25 and the motor only pulls 10, you've got essentially 15 there that won't get used. So it's only a matter of how fast can the battery be discharged. How fast can it supply the power to the motor. If your motor wants to draw more than what the C rating is capable on your battery, then you're going to get internal resistance. So basically you're trying to draw more from the battery than it can possibly deliver you, which will more than likely heat the battery up. So you'll probably want to get a higher discharge battery to handle like a higher output motor. So that's sort of what it is. If you want sort of more information, I'm in no way an expert when it comes to batteries. Everything when it comes to these sort of batteries, I've had to teach myself over just experimenting with Gelblasters. So if you do want a more in-depth information on it, definitely do some research, guys. I know like Hobby King's got great info, and there's heaps of other forums, all sorts of that stuff with heaps of information about batteries that will definitely help, because it's helped me. So look, do some research if you really want to know. And yeah, so what I'll talk about now though is the different types of plugs, and plugs are obviously very important, because if you've got the wrong plug, you're not going to fit your battery to your blaster. Now, most blasters come standard from China with this plug here. It's called a JST-SM. Now, this plug is not the greatest. It's only got those two little metal fins inside there. They're quite small. They're also, the plastic of the plug itself isn't really that heat resistant. So if you get it really hot, then you're going to melt the plug. Now, if you think of a plug as a bottleneck in a river or even a bottle, when you want the flow of water to go down the river, but then the river does these ones, then that could be, you can translate that same to your plug on your battery. If your plug is not big enough or good enough for the power that's required to travel through the wires, then you're going to get resistance from the plug, and the plug will heat up, melt. So the next step up, and the next most common one, is this one here, which is the Mini Tamiya. Again, it's not the greatest because you still only got these two little small pins. It's quite hard to see. You got these two little small pins. They do move around a lot, and they can sometimes be a little bit hard to plug in, but they are definitely a little bit of a step up from the JST. But then you've got other batteries such as the XT range, so XT30s, 60s, 90s. They vary in size depending on the application. Now, you've also got one of my personal favorite, a Dean's plug, and this is pretty much one of the first versions of a Dean's plug. There is a second version that Hobby King do, which is much better because the size of the plug, when you go to pull it apart and they fit quite tight, a lot of people are pulling from the wires. And I'll tell you right now, that rule of thumb is don't pull from the wires, because you'll just reef stuff out and damage it. So what they did is they made a cap as well that goes over the back and sits about here, so you've got a little bit more to grab onto, and it also protects the contacts for all the wires. So these are also actually called a T-style. So they got that little bit of a T sort of shape. So if you were ever looking for Dean's plugs, the alternative name is T-style. Same with Mini Tamiyas. You won't go to JCar and find them as a Mini Tamiya. You'll probably find them as a Mini Molex. So yeah, the other one, guys, is this plug here on your batteries, which is your balance plug. So if you've got a good quality charger, like a Turnigy B6 or something, then you'll probably more than likely be using both plugs to charge the battery. This one's required because you've got some wires. You've got two wires that go to the cells, and you've got your earth wire that returns for the circuit. You've got this one here is an 11.1 volt battery, which has got 3 cells, but it has 4 wires, 1 wire to each cell plus the earth wire. Then you've got a 7 volt battery, which only has 3 wires, 2 wires for the cells, 1 for the earth. So that's the easy way to identify, if there's no labels for whatever reason on the battery, how many cells there are, because of the balance plug. Alright, so when it comes to milliamps as well, guys, a big thing that you got to watch out for is great companies, good companies versus not so good companies that make batteries. Now you've got a few here, such as Turnigy or Nanotech. This is a Hobby King brand, so you can sort of only buy it from Hobby King. You've got other people who do sell them, such as us when we have them in stock, but we are just reselling them essentially. Hobby King is the only place you can get them. You can get them online, but yeah, that is a Hobby King brand battery. Then you've got other battery companies around the world, generally China, that sell other batteries. You know, when it comes to a good company, you can generally tell that they care about their product because they'll do a nice little packet for them, you know, because they care about their image. Best way to see if it is a decent, at least a decent quality battery compared to these. So I would recommend any of these over something like that. Now the biggest problem with these batteries is they lie to you. They tell you that it's a 1400 milliamp battery. Now the problem with that is that says it's a 1200 milliamp battery, and that's a 1400 milliamp battery. So how is that battery bigger than that battery? It's not, obviously. So that's the biggest problem when it comes to these Chinese batteries, is they aren't accurate. All right, so, and you can't really say anything about like false advertising, anything from China, because it's China. They'll just put whatever on there and call it translation. So you just got to really be careful. These batteries are I would call a last resort sort of battery, and you don't want to definitely put it onto something like a high drawing motor. You definitely want to get yourself a good quality battery, definitely. Alright, so one of the last few things I'll touch on is different battery types. Now if you don't really know what the difference between a LiPo or a lithium ion is, I'll touch on it here, but there's also more than that. There's nickel based batteries. So there's nickel metal hydride and nickel cadmium batteries. We used to see them quite a lot coming in the old Gelblasters, probably about 2 years ago. They were in the box, but nowadays it's more so lithium ion as a standard sort of battery, and a LiPo as your upgraded battery. Now when it comes to just lithium based batteries, your lithium ion it's a great little battery, but it has a smaller discharge rate compared to a LiPo. Now a LiPo is quite volatile. It's a gel packed insides, so that's how you get the square sort of and odd shape type LiPo batteries, is because it's a gel. They can conform it to different sort of shapes and whatnot, whereas a lithium ion battery like that is more of a cylindrical shape. Now the reason that being is it's a 18650 batteries inside. Now you might recognize 18650 batteries because they're sometimes in torches, like your tactical torches. They're in your vapes as well. You know, basically it's just those, you know, glued together with all the wires and heat shrink, and got a battery. You know, they are a solid battery, but yeah, not as awesome as LiPos. But LiPos, with the awesomeness that they carry, they're also quite dangerous. So you can have, you know, some pretty bad LiPo fires if you don't look after them correctly. Now there's a huge safety, you know, thing regarding LiPo batteries, especially about them, you know. So, but please look after your batteries. I can do I suppose a battery safety little video if you want, or even just release a little bit of information regarding battery safety and all the do's and don'ts about it. You know, obviously the biggest don't is leave it charging when you're not there. You know, always supervise charging your batteries. But you know, off track here, let's go back to the nickel-based batteries. Those ones, they're solid as a rock. You can just abuse the hell out of them. You know, use them. But you know, they don't have the same discharge rate as LiPos, and you know, their packaging and whatnot isn't as good as what LiPos can be. So they're again probably more of a backup battery. But you know, the more most common that you'd see nickel-based batteries generally in your phones. You know, probably not your new phones these days. I think they've moved to lithium, but your older phones, they were nickel based. So nickel, it really gets affected by what is called the memory effect, which is essentially, you know, you plug your phone in at night, leave it charge all bloody night. When it's brand new, lasts ages, it's awesome. You know, 12 months down the track, you're just doing the same charge cycle, you know, plugging it in when it's not flat and just overcharging it. Eventually your phone only lasts until 10 a.m. in the morning. So that's the memory effect. You start tricking the battery into thinking that it's smaller than it actually is, and then you kind of ruin the battery. So nickel-based batteries, they have that problem. You really have to look after the charging of it, but you know, the discharge is completely different to lipos. Whereas lipos, you can charge them on, off, just whenever you want. It doesn't matter. They don't suffer from the memory effect. If you decide I need to charge my battery, you plug it in. Oh, I've got to go down the road and get some milk. Just pull your battery out, go get your milk, come back, plug it back in. Doesn't affect nothing. Okay, you can just plug it in and out, and you won't get a memory effect from it. All right, so that is pretty much the basic, most common different types of batteries. But the number one most important thing when it comes to batteries, guys, is store them safely, treat them with respect. I'll show you a little clip on this video what can happen with a lipo fire. If anyone's ever seen an oxyacetylene torch, you'll know, probably see something very familiar, because these things will burn your house down quicker than you can say, oh shit. Okay, so check the video out, guys, and yeah, you'll understand how dangerous they are.
I don't know, I was just charging the battery and I heard boosh, and I ran, and see, now it's going to explode. Stay away! It's going to explode, and here it goes! Whoa! Whoa! Look at that! Now I have to clean my bathroom.
So, as you can see, guys, they can be pretty dangerous. You don't want that sort of sitting next to your curtain, on your carpet, somewhere in your bed, like, in your house that's going to be next to something flammable. So generally, throw your battery into like one of those Lipo safe bags, charge it from there. Even charge it in your bathroom. There's not a hell of a lot of things in most people's bathrooms that will catch on fire. So always supervise charging your batteries, because that little thing is not worth your house, your family, your livelihood. It's not worth it. Alright, so just please be safe with batteries. And if you have any more questions, guys, if you have any ideas for any tech videos, please drop a comment, message us, and if you do like these videos, give us a like. If you haven't subscribed already, hit that button, and you know what, I'll see you guys at the next Tech Talk.